Hello, my name is
Yes.
Manny. I'm a grad student in the Broadcast and Digital Journalism program.
Oh.
And I'm curious to know how you feel having the title Black Correspondent. I know.
Senior Black Correspondent.
Senior Black
Be
Correspondent.
very specific here. Black Correspondent. Huh?
I know.
In fact, that's how we did the bit initially, where John said, and I'd like to introduce our Black Correspondent, Larry Wilmore, and I just didn't say anything, and John was looking at me, and, oh, I'm sorry, Senior Black, and then it said Senior Black. Oh, thank you, John. Okay. And then we went into it. But we were looking to do, I met with John about doing The Daily Show. My audition basically was talking to John about sports, I think, basically for the show, or my interview. And, we were getting ideas for it, and I didn't just want to do an opposite thing, like what people would think, like they said, maybe you should just be a Republican. I said, no, people would think, oh, because black people really aren't Republicans. I said, no, that's not funny. So I thought my real point of view is that I'm just contrary to what you might think, And then DJ Jabberbaum, as the head writer, came up with the phrase, I should be the senior Black correspondent. Like, that's my expertise, And in fact, and it really kind of made sense for the types of things I wanted to talk about. And one of my favorites was, we were talking about Black History Month, and my point of view on it was 28 days of trivia to make up for 400 years of slavery. I'd rather we got casinos, and that became the name of my book, that phrase, But that's kind of my point of view. It's contrary to what you might think, because the natural thing would be, like the joke before I was doing that would be, you would say, well, how come February's only got 28 days? How come, Black History Month? So that's the typical joke, But mine is like, I don't even want Black History Month. So that's the joke we don't expect, So that's what I mean by contrary. And so now so it begs the question, well, why don't you want Black History Month? And then when I explain it, then we understand the real reason, which I'll talk really about racism when we get to my real reason. So that's where all of that comes from in the point of view. And that's what's fun about doing that too, I like to take whatever you typically think I might talk about and kind of turn it on its head and talk about the thing that I think is really important underneath,
My name is Zane Warman. I am a freshman newspaper major, and I was wondering, how do you avoid...
Nobody reads newspapers anymore, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Oops. Ruh-roh. It's just a joke. It's a joke.
It's a quarter
joke. Don't be sad. It's a joke.
$1 million bath, I know.
I'm a comedian. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was wondering, how do you avoid getting pigeonholed as as like a black satirist or a black correspondent in just like your everyday work?
I guess one would consider that a pigeonhole in the first place, I suppose, or you could consider it a niche, This is what I do. I get to talk about race today. I mean, I find it fantastic that I can talk about this. I don't consider it a pigeonhole. So I consider it a privilege to be able to talk to you about these things. People are scared to talk about these things today, and there's always something new in there, You can always, find something new about it, So I find it very interesting. And I do many, many things in the business. The Daily Show is just one part of what I do, but I really enjoy it a lot. So I don't worry about, I guess being the only thought of that, I suppose. Sorry. Yes.
Hey, I'm a grad student here, and before coming here, I worked as a journalist for a few years.
Where are you?
Sorry?
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, sorry. I worked as a journalist for a few years, and one thing that I noticed is I'm a Pakistani American, and working in D.C., I probably met maybe a handful, like you can count them on one hand, like other Pakistanis who are in the media field to begin with. And so,
you're a writer, or?
Yeah, as a writer. And I guess one of the problems I saw is there's obviously discrimination, like particularly if they think you have some sort of opinion about the Middle East or something, like, agencies and nonprofits will be a little wary of you. But part of it also was self-selection. Like if a Pakistani tells his mom that he wants to be a journalist or an actor, they'll say, you're crazy. Why aren't you a doctor? Why aren't you an engineer? And I guess my question to you is, like, how do you think that underrepresented communities can sort of, get over that sort of internalized mentality of like, okay, we're just not going to be represented in that field. Hollywood doesn't want us. They don't want to portray us positively. Why should we even start?
It can be challenging, especially for, for some groups. It seems like some groups sometimes get more represented than others. I've always felt that some of the problem is it's not so much that the establishment doesn't want you or doesn't like you, like those sort of things. The big problem is you're invisible. So it's a different issue. So if you know you're invisible, your question is, how do I become visible? How do I take off the invisibility cloak and put on the visibility one? And so that becomes an active exercise as opposed to a passive one where it's just reactive. You want to get into an active phase. How do I create something where I can create visibility? How can I help people to see the value of what I'm doing or what I can bring? That sort of thing, whatever your point of view is. I always like to approach things in a constructive way. Why? Because it gives you the power. You know, it puts the control in your hands, you know. If you're a writer, certainly try to write interesting stories that, you know, talk about the things that you're interested and passionate about from your point of view, whether it's one character in something or an entire, you know, league of characters or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't all happen overnight in drips and drabs for some people. I personally think Indian is the new black right now. That's my personal opinion. But you'd be surprised. Some things happen in bunches too, you know. And sometimes it takes one really interesting example to make people go, oh, okay, that's cool. You know.
Hi, my name's Kayla Chadwick, and I'm a broadcast grad student. And I wanted to ask, given the challenges in the industry for women, and particularly for black women, when do you think Jessica Williams is going to get her own show?
Jessica is a dynamo. Let me tell you something. That girl is on the fast track to something. She has so much charisma. She's young, too. Jessica, she's your age, basically. Sorry. But she's so talented. Sky's the limit for her. But she's got plenty of time. She's still learning a lot too, which is good.
I also have to admit it's quite a delight to see a woman with braids on television on a regular basis. Just never see those alternative, or not even alternative, because it's, but other images of hair. And I have all sorts of hair issues on my own, and it makes me so happy to see her on television doing well with her hair.
Well, what's important? You know, what's interesting is the serious answer about Jessica, too, from a more of a serious point of view, which I like. See, when someone asks about Senior Black Correspondent, the benefit of that for me is Jessica doesn't have to do that. You know, she can be a black woman on a satirical news show doing satire that doesn't have to be about race. That's fantastic, you know. And a young person who people can look up to and aspire to and respect, regardless of race, regardless if she was black. But the fact that, you know, she's doing that in her position, I think is great. So she can be the White House correspondent, she can be the Middle East correspondent, she can be whatever. And I think that is more fantastic than anything else.